Hello, it's Richard from Longman Tarot with a walkthrough of the Beowulf Oracle, subtitled Wisdom from the Northern Kingdoms, that's written by John Matthews, Virginia Chandler, and illustrated by Joe Machine. I was lucky enough to see some of the original artwork that was hanging in Atlantis Bookshop in London. That's still there till the end of April. The artwork of Joe Machine is absolutely stunning. And these cards really do illustrate the beautiful artwork that's involved in it. It's published by Red Feather. It's available on Amazon as well as in other shops as well. I've put a link to the Amazon site below with the video, and the price in England is about £18 at the moment for this deck there. It comes in this beautiful drawer box with a ribbon there that pulls it out. I'm just going to show you the back of it so you get to see what the artwork for this looks like. There's the ISBN number as well. So I'm going to apologise before I even start by saying I don't speak Norse nor Old English, so any pronunciations I make about some of the names and characters in this deck, I'm just going to give them the best shot I can, and I don't know if they're going to be correct or not. But let's have a go. Right, listen up. So begins the tale of Beowulf and what the Scandinavian tribes believe was the journey each of us takes to achieve immortality. The ancient energy that inspired the magical world and adventurous spirit of the poem now inspires the first deck based on the epic story, providing guides and symbols for the seeker. Use this oracle as a tool to reveal where you are on your path, as well as what or who is influencing your journey. The voice of the Skald, the poet of the Viking Age, coming through the oracle leads you to an inner spiritual place and provides you with a seeing of what the gods have chosen to reveal and a knowing of what is to come. Connecting with the adventures and the heroic deeds of the warriors and the adversaries they encounter, both human and magical, make their universal paths one that affects all who read them. Courage, then, seeker, in your quest. So inside the box, we have this. It pulls really nicely out, actually. We have the book, really well presented. There we go. And there are the backs of the cards there. So let's have a look inside the book. It is fully illustrated in colour. So there's a foreword, pretty much what's on the back of the box, an introduction, a little bit about the epic poem of Beowulf. It's a 1,000-year-old poem that's even older than that. It's a Norse saga, and the only reason we know about it is it was written down in Old English 1,000 years ago, and we still have a copy of that, even though, as it says here, it was actually partly damaged in 1731, but we have most of the whole saga there. If we didn't have that, we would have probably not known too much about it, but there have been films about Beowulf in the last decade or so, I believe there was. And he's quite well known, particularly the struggle with Grendel and Grendel's mother. It's quite out there in our own world. I think a lot of people are aware of it. So there's a little bit there just about sort of the world, the legend, what goes with it there. 2007 the film was. It's quite a good film. I seem to remember watching it. It's quite scary. And then there's a retelling of the Beowulf saga, which is really easy to read. And it's about his epic fight against Grendel's mother, who I can't remember, was it? Just trying to think who played Grendel's mother in the film. I think it's Angelina Jolie, but it doesn't look like Angelina Jolie because they computerized her. But it's a stunning film. I recommend watching that if you haven't seen it yet. yeah, so you've got a very up-to-date, easy-to-read version of um, the epic saga there. And then we go into how um, the reading actually works. So it's in several stages here. This might make a little bit more sense when we have a look at the cards, but I'll briefly explain what happens. So there are several different cards here. The first we're going to have a look at in a moment is the Norns. Now, the Norns represent past, the present, the future. They are Scandinavian goddesses. Um, I suppose you'd call them like the weaver of the time. They're often called, referred to in Greek mythology as other bits and pieces there. But each one of those has a different time scale, if you like. So you would phrase your question, you would then pick one of these three cards, and that will tell you where the root of the question and the answer lies. So you can see you've got one that's the past, the present, and the future. Once you've kind of worked out what's happening there, you then select one of the other cards, which is going to work a bit like a significator, and they become a companion. Now you can pick them just by looking through the deck, or you can select them randomly if you want to. And then you can choose, are they going to be the hero or the challenger? Now, both of them have a slightly different way of working with the question. So the hero, for example, is going to be supportive, is going to guide you. The hero is going to act as your guide in this through this journey. The challenger asks you, if you're going to take that aspect, asks you to sort of look a bit more internally there. I suppose a bit more like the shadow side of the question there. So you can choose which one you want to have with you as a companion on the journey. So you pick those two cards. The next one is you actually pick your third card for the actual interpretation. But before you do that, you sort of throw, I suppose, or toss the card onto the table that you're reading. And depending which way up it is pointing, delineates which one of the worlds is going to have the answer for you. So the map of the world is on page 129, I believe. And these worlds, if you've known any about the Thor, the Marvel films, you'll recognise these worlds as the world the Norse legends come from. So you've got Vanaheim, Bifrost, Valhalla, Midgard, and all those ones there. So your card, whichever way it's kind of pointing, suggests where the answer again is going to be located in there. So yeah, so here is the list of the different worlds and basically what the key is to the answer. So for example, if you happen to go for Valhalla, you may find that you've got it's rest and achievement. So that is what the key, the message is behind the answer that you're looking for there. And then you actually read the card from the book as the final stage, and that's called the Norn Weavings, which is when you're actually going to look at the analysis. So each card has different layers depending on whether it's going to be the companion, hero, challenger, or is it going to be part of the Norn Weavings there. As I said, it's quite a complex system, but actually works quite quickly once I've had a go at this. The only thing I would say about it is it's the picking of the worlds is the hardest because of that diagram. That's all you have to work from on there. And my criticism would be, it would be nice to probably have this on a piece of paper or on a sort of fold out laminated diagram, so you could actually throw the card onto it and you get a bit more of an idea of where it's pointing. So, for example, not much between Midgard and that Alfheim and Svartalfheim there. So that's the only thing I would say is a bit difficult to work with. They give you a couple of examples of how this would all work there. Like I said, you can. If you didn't want to do that, you could just use the cards individually as meaning, but I think it loses something if you don't add those extra layers into it there. So here's a list of all the cards that you're going to have. We'll have a look at those in a moment. And then we go into the different descriptions of them. If I'm just going to pick one to give you an idea of how this works. Let's look at Grendel's mother. So each one has an illustration of the card, a brief outline there. And then, so we have different parts with each of the questions there. There's a bit about how she works as the hero. I'm a mother who loves her clan and kindred with deep, passionate devotion. Exiled because of my child's treacherous slaying, I brood in the dark waters of doubt and fear. So that's how she would go in and support you and look after you and protect you as a hero, as a challenger. To you, I say, what life challenge brought you here? How will you seek to find a solution? Will you look to the times that are gone, to the ancestors, perhaps? So they're asking sort of more internal questions as a challenger. Okay. And then actually the weaving of the norms is what would happen if you pick Grendel's mother as, if you like, the answer to the question that you're doing. So again, it goes in as a hero and a challenger there. The hideous aspect, the womb of outpouring, the birth of brave ones who leap to the fray. Most of these weaving of the norms are written almost in poetic prose forms, which again gives you, it could be a little bit off-putting, I suppose, but I quite like the way that it's told or written, because it lets you think about it. It's not going to be a simple yes or no, or here's the answer. There's a lot involved in it all there. So I just like the way that that can be interpreted and thought about. I think this is a real meditative deck. Did I say that right? Meditative deck, yeah. You'd have to spend some time getting yourself prepared to do a reading from here, because there's a lot of layers. The thing that puts me off, and I've said this a few times, is I don't like diving into books when I'm doing readings. I like to sort of read them, try and learn them, work intuitively with them. The one thing that slightly puts me off with this one is there's a lot of different layers to each of these cards. So if you were going to have to work, you'd have to spend a lot of time working with this deck to understand how the different parts of it work. So, you know, what the different layer is as a hero, what is different as a challenger, then what is actually as the outcomes in both formats there. But, you know, we all have to start with the guidebook to start off with. So, you know, there's nothing wrong with that one. We also have, each card is tied to one of the runes as well. So there is also rune meanings that work in the hero and challenger. So there's a lot more to this deck than meets the eye. So let's go to Grendel's mother again. Her rune is Othala, inheritance and legacy. This is a rune of clan hierarchy and the balance of a happy home. And again, it's in the hero and in the challenger position. Sorry, that was the rune meaning. The hero one is the wronged will be avenged, gather your kin and draw strength from one another. The challenger is when blood kin proves false, open the doors for them to depart. As you notice as well, there's also some layouts. And you can have them as sort of parts that fit in with the story. There's kind of things to read out chant if you wanted to, or read out parts of the story with. I really like how it's really tied to the idea of saga and storytelling, this deck. It's not just, oh, we've made a Beowulf deck, and you know, we're just going to put the characters in, and there you go, off you go. There is something that feels quite primordial, or something that's a bit more ritualistic about this. And then finally, you've got more links there to the different translations of the poems there, and books that may help you. So that's the book. I hope that makes a bit of sense. Perhaps it will do when we look at the cards. We're going to have the book with us. Quick slug of tea before we start on this. Right, so these are the cards. Now they are, as an Oracle deck should be. There isn't a ribbon to get them out, which is a bit of a shame. But they are fantastic as far as the artwork goes. So we have 3 Norns. I'm just going to put those aside for one moment so that we can have a look at them. And these Norns are, as we said previously, the past, the present, the future. In fact, I think I should have them that way round, because Erd is the past, Verdandi is the present, and Skuld is the future. And we've got a real Mother Maiden Crow feel to this one as well. You can see them in black and white, or actually black and grey, and they have been beautifully made by lino cutting. So this is what all the black areas are here. And it's just fantastic. I mean, just as those cards, you could have those on your altar with a sacred space. It'd be absolutely stunning. Let's just have a little look about these 3. Yeah, so Erd is what once was. Verdandi is the present, what is coming into being. And Skuld is what shall be, so the future there. Just really love those ones. So they're the ones that you would select first to find out which part of where you're reading actually is coming in from, which the past, the present, the future. Oh, sorry, I should have said that the size of the card, actually, they're just, as oracles are quite big compared to your standard RWS, but they're not massive. They're easily to shuffle, and the cardstock is actually quite thick. It's quite nice. You can see it's matte, not too glossy, which is a joy when you're doing a video, so that it doesn't reflect too much. And yeah, those are the backs. So they're the 3 Norns. Now I'm going to just walk you through the other remaining cards. So these, as I said, are beautifully, they're very colourful, and yet the palette is kind of, no, I'm not going to say dark, but it's kind of grey, it's kind of quite muted. But the colours work really, really well. So here's our hero, Beowulf, and when I saw this picture in real size at Landesburg, absolutely stunning. This deck would work so well with something like the Druid Craft, or even the Druid Craft Lenormand, or any of those Nordic ones. The Celtic Tarot, which is a really old one, but is one of my favourites, would work phenomenally with this one. And actually, I personally don't feel like I've had a deck, an Oracle deck, that speaks to me quite as much of that period, if that makes sense. So I do like the Vikings. I've spent a lot of time this year reading a lot of the Viking sagas and a lot of the mythology around it all. Look at Grendel there. There's Grendel's mother. So yeah, it would fit in really well with any work to do with that one. And I can't think of an Oracle deck perhaps that quite covers or would quite fit together with the the Druidcraft. I know there's Celtic animal, and there's Celtic trees, and there's the Celtic plants as well, and all those ones there. I'm not going to try and pronounce their names. Some of the runes are hidden in the illustration. So here, the rune from there. Others are a little bit harder to find, and some of them actually aren't the runes that they are signed as well. So there is a rune just up here, but that doesn't go with the sword one. So I like the idea of runes, but I keep trying to learn them, but I find it quite difficult. I mustn't give up. The artwork was quite reminiscent of those illustrated manuscripts of the time, or at least something that you might find in a church of that kind of early medieval period. The dragon. I like the fact it's almost turning into that lemniscate. It's got that quality going on there. I think in Nordic stories, the dragon was often a serpent more than a fire-breathing smog of wings and talons and teeth that we associate with kind of Lord of the Rings, Middle Earth kind of dragons. Stolen cup, I love that. Love the smoke coming out from that barrow. The Wailing Widow is powerful. Can't help but think of the Scream painting. Beowulf. I wonder if that's his ring. Let's have a look at it. I'm not going to keep going through all the different meanings of them, but you can see that they match in the book. Okay, let's have a look at one. Let's look at King Hrethel. He said, trying to pronounce that. When Beowulf is orphaned at the age of 7, it is the king who takes the boy and raises him as a foster son and prince of the great. Hrethel is a loving father and a generous ring giver. He dies of grief when his blood son Herebold slays his brother Hethsin in a hunting accident. So therefore we have a bit about him. I really like the way it's written, actually. And then you have the hero aspect, you have the challenger aspect, so you can decide therefore which way you would take that card. I don't think there's a way of choosing whether you want them as the hero or the challenger. Unless, of course, you were going to read it reversed. I don't know. There's no mention of that in the book. And then if you happen to pick the card king as actually as one of the results of the card, you would therefore read it. And I suppose that one would be read reversed or not as the challenger. I can't remember it saying anything in the book about that. So that is the deck. How many cards are there? That's a good point. It's not going to tell me, is it? So we have the 3 Norns. So there's 20 of the coloured character cards and the 3 Norn cards that go with those ones there. So 23 altogether. Very good for the price, I think, actually. It's really well presented and really well made. And like I said, I'll put a link below the video if you're interested in purchasing the deck from Amazon there. So thank you very much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed that. Join me again for some more lives, chats about Oracle and Tarot cards. And take care. See you soon.